Hey everyone, my name is Jonas and today I'm going to tell you a little bit more about an amazing organization for which I did some volunteering last summer. But before I start with this presentation, I would like you to try to imagine the sea. What image do you see? Chances are pretty high that a lot of you saw some nice coastal ecosystems with lots of color, light and life. The sea is indeed well known for its vast diversity of life, but unfortunately we humans are changing it into a big blue desert. By polluting the water and disbalancing the ecosystems, we are leaving a destructive trail everywhere we go. But let's not be too pessimistic. It's not too late to do something about it. Our efforts, combined with the powerful capacity of aquatic ecosystems to self-restore, can make sure that the sea remains this colorful place full of life. Thankfully, there are a lot of different organizations that try to preserve the sea in different parts of the world. One of those organizations is Vivamar. Vivamar plays its part in protecting the Adriatic Sea at the coast of Slovenia and Croatia by protecting one of the last remaining top predators in this area, the common bottlenose dolphin. Vivamar is an ambassador of dolphins to people. They give dolphins a voice by informing people about the impacts their actions have on the dolphins, by means of lectures, internships, international student exchange, volunteers, and an annual Dolphin Day. On top of this, Vivamar is also conducting research on the northeastern Adriatic dolphin population and the impacts of human activity on the population dynamics. This way, they do not only protect the dolphins, but the whole Adriatic Sea, because a healthy sea means a healthy dolphin population, and a healthy dolphin population means a healthy sea. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the animals where it's all about, the dolphins. A common misconception about dolphins is that they are fish. They are in fact marine mammals. Just like, for example, whales and killer whales, and you probably know a lot of different examples. Their evolutionary origin is still visible today. In contrary to fish, they give live birth and a mother feeds her newborn calf with milk. Also, their pectoral fins, like the fins on their chests, they contain bones which still look a lot like the bones in the limbs of terrestrial animals. This shows us that in their evolutionary history, dolphins evolved from land animals. Dolphins propel themselves in the water by moving their tails up and down. This way they can reach speeds up to 54 kilometers an hour, which is really fast. They can steer by using their pectoral fins. Those are the fins that I just showed you in the last slide. The dorsal fin acts as a stabilizer. It doesn't contain any bones. This dorsal fin is also really helpful in keeping different dolphins apart, as each individual has different nicks, scars and scratches due to, for example, fights, play between dolphins, or dolphins getting stuck in fishing nets, which can cause some minor wounds which result in scars. Vivamar also uses the different scratch patterns on the dorsal fins of the dolphins as a way to identify different dolphins by comparing new pictures of dorsal fins with a database with pictures of all the dorsal fins of the dolphins that were already spotted in a previous encounter. Another remarkable feature of dolphins is their blowing hole, which they use for breathing. They do this consciously, so this means that they're always aware when they take a breath. As a consequence, dolphins can never sleep completely because if they did, then they couldn't consciously breathe anymore and they would just suffocate. So only one hemisphere of the brain is sleeping at a time to make sure that the breathing continues. Dolphins also have really well developed senses. They can see above water as well as underwater, and they can also move their eyes separately. This can be really useful during hunting because when they're tracking fish, each fish is swimming independently and really fast to all kinds of directions, and by being able to focus each eye on a different focus point, they have an edge in chasing the fish. On top of this, they also have a sophisticated sense of hearing, which is 7 times more sensitive than human hearing. By making clicking sounds, they can locate prey, objects, and other animals. This is called echolocation, and you probably have heard of this already, since it's also used in a lot of technological applications made by humans. Echolocation works by dolphins emitting clicking sounds, which are propelled in the water, and when these clicking sounds reach an object, they get bounced back because of the object, and the dolphin can hear the bounce back signals, so it knows where the object is. This way, they can also communicate with each other. Communication is very important for dolphins, since they express complex social behavior. They can recognize each other just by their clicks, like the clicks they make for echolocation, and they can also hunt together in an intelligent way. When other dolphins are in trouble, they even try to help their buddies. Because of these reasons, dolphins are often regarded as one of the most intelligent species on the planet. The only species of dolphin that is still living permanently in the Adriatic Sea is the common bottlenose dolphin. Other species that used to live here, like the striped dolphin and the common dolphin, unfortunately couldn't cope with the changes humans brought about to the Adriatic Sea. Water pollution really is a big problem in this area. The thing is that the Adriatic Sea is actually quite shallow, and it is surrounded by lots of land, with only a small passage to the rest of the Mediterranean Sea. Because of this, the sea doesn't contain that much water, and due to low currents, the water only gets stirred a little. Because of this, pollution in the Adriatic Sea doesn't get diluted that much, so it gets concentrated to high concentrations, which have a big impact. A lot of this pollution already starts more landinwards, along the rivers whose water is flowing towards the sea. Big factories and power plants sometimes dump their wastewater, runoff from agricultural land contaminated with pesticides and fertilizer, waste from cities, and atmospheric deposition, which are pollutants from the air, pollute these rivers. And although it seems that the waste just disappears along with the flowing water, everything gets concentrated in the delicate marine ecosystems. A good example of the impacts of pollution is plastic waste. If you look at, for instance, a plastic bag that ends up in the water. This bag as a whole could already cause a lot of problems, because it might resemble the prey of some animals, which could try to eat the bag. This of course isn't very tasty, and it could cause some serious problem for the animal involved. But plastic pollution can also have some more severe consequences. Examples of these are bioaccumulation and biomagnification. When plastic gets broken down because of mechanical and chemical processes, like smashing of the waves or bacteria who break the plastic down, only small particles called microplastics remain. These microplastics, which are very small, like the name says, might get eaten by small fish, who might think they're algae or plankton. When they eat more and more plastics, and these plastics remain in the fish, we call this bioaccumulation, because the microplastics, they accumulate in the fish to possibly very high concentrations. After a while, a small fish might get eaten by a bigger fish, which of course eats lots of small fish that might have eaten the microplastics. And these bigger fish in turn get eaten by an even bigger fish, and so on, until we reach the top predator, like a dolphin. In this top predator, all of the plastics come together, and they can have major health impacts. We call this biomagnification. This process is very relevant to us, because we humans are the top predators of almost every ecosystem. This way, we are actually poisoning ourselves with our own waste. Another major threat to the dolphins is overfishing. If people continue catching fish at the rate they are right now, in a few years there could be barely any fish remaining. This would mean that the food for the dolphins will be gone as well. And it's especially a big problem in the Adriatic Sea because it's famous for its fish restaurants and its good quality of fish meat. And because of that, people are really overfishing this sea, which has a lot of consequences for the dolphins, like I just told you. One final threat that I'm going to tell you about is the maritime traffic. There are more and more boats sailing the Adriatic. These do not only create pollution, but also disturbances through underwater sound. We might not hear those noises on the shore, but underwater sounds can carry much further than in the air. This can cause stress and often even physical injury to the dolphins, especially because they use sound as means of looking under the ocean by means of echolocation, and also for communication. So it can really disturb the dolphins if there is a lot of sound underwater. I know that everything I just told you might not seem too positive, but there are actually quite a few things we can do to help the dolphins and to prevent the degradation of the marine ecosystems. There are lots of organizations who play their part by informing people, manifesting, demanding change from the people in charge, and acting on the ecosystems themselves by saving animals and getting rid of pollution. Vivamar is one of those organizations. If you would also like to help Vivamar with saving some of the most beautiful animals of the Adriatic Sea, you can always visit the website vivamar.org to learn more about their projects, their mission, and bottlenose dolphins. Maybe you can even think about volunteering in the future. Actually, volunteering with Vivamar is one thing I can really recommend. It has been one of the most amazing experiences of my life so far. Myself, I study biology, so it was really interesting for me to see all of the different research techniques that Vivamar uses to monitor the dolphin populations and to see the impacts of pollution and human activity on those dolphins. It's also a really nice way to meet people from different countries with all kinds of different interests. By being there yourself, you can experience the impacts of pollution and human activity on the area at first hand. And you can also, of course, have a look at the most beautiful animals of the Adriatic Sea, the bottlenose dolphins. I would like to thank you all for your attention.